What's up, everybody on YouTube and wherever you are? I mean, I guess you can't really physically exist on YouTube, but wherever you are out there in this world, Earth, I guess. But welcome back to the 11th installment of the CNC on CFB show here. We are now previewing week 11. Little coincidence with how the numbers have shaken out here. We are going to, per usual, go into cons questions and then discuss this beautiful slate we have every weekend in college football. It's the eye of the beholder. We just
Mhm.
gotta. It's the beauty lies in the eye of the beholder. So with that, let's just kick it off, Connor. Let's get in your questions, man.
Well, first, I'd like to say that I resent the idea that we don't have any viewers or listeners on the International Space Station or maybe
That
any
yeah, I don't. I don't.
extraterrestrials,
Fair enough. Fair
anyone
enough.
here on this Earth or anywhere.
Fair enough. That's very important. I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to limit or exclude anybody. We're all about inclusion on this show. That's very important.
Speaking of inclusion, one thing that cannot happen is have every team included in the college football playoff. There only gets to be four. This is the last year of the
True.
14 playoff. And as always, it's delivering a lot of drama leading towards the end of the season. So that's what my question's going to be about.
Okay.
I think it's pretty obvious right now that you can easily separate the contenders into three groups. There are five teams that all they have to do is win out and they're in.
Okay.
That is Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Florida State, and Washington. Obviously, you can't have five teams in, but two of those teams have to play each other, so that'll take care of that. If any of those five go undefeated, they're in. No bones about it. You agree? I'm sure.
Yeah. Right from the top: Ohio State, Georgia,
Michigan,
Michigan,
Florida
Florida
State,
State,
and Washington.
Washington, not Oregon.
Well, if Washington wins out, they'll have beaten Oregon again in the Pac-12 championship
I'm
game.
saying, but teams that have their own, if they
No, I
run the
think there's
table.
scenarios where Oregon wins out and doesn't get in. I think
Okay.
that's on the table.
Okay.
But
That's interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
they're in my next category of teams that win out and they're probably in.
Okay.
That's Oregon, Bama, and Texas is a little bit of a tweener there between that and the next category. The
Hmm.
next category is they need to win out and they need help. That would be Penn State, Ole Miss, and Louisville. Those are the only teams in the country that can't even make it. Everyone else has at least two losses. No one's getting in with two losses. So that 11 teams right there in those three categories, those are the only teams that can make it.
Hmm.
So what I wanted to do to you for my Connor's questions this week is to toss some scenarios at you.
Let's
Have
do
my
this.
question be, what would happen if? So I'm going to start with a fun one I've been thinking about a lot.
Okay.
What would happen if Ole Miss makes it beats Georgia this weekend? They would then be playing in the college football playoff, or not? I'm sorry, in the SEC championship game, probably against Alabama.
Or no, or the East West, so it would be Georgia.
Yes. Oh no,
I
I mean
guess
the other way
technically.
around. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So then Bama would be out of contention,
Yeah.
essentially,
Hmm.
even though they could go 11-1.
Yeah. I guess, or is there the head-to-head dynamic though? Who did Ole Miss has lost to?
They did lose to Alabama. Let's take this from the top.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do this. Let's really get the clear reset here.
Yes.
SEC. Georgia is gonna be from the East. The West, it's basically Ole Miss or Bama.
It's basically Bama. Yes, this is the
This-
scenario I was trying to get to.
Okay.
I apologize. I had everything flipped in my
Okay.
head.
Okay.
Should Ole Miss beat Georgia this
Hmm.
weekend,
Hmm.
they will have the best win in the country. They will likely
Yeah.
finish the season 11-1
Hmm.
or 10-1, I should
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
No, yes, 11-1.
11-1. Yeah.
12
Yeah.
regular
Yeah.
season games. I've really thrown myself for a loop with this one.
This is the point of the
So,
segment.
yes, they will likely finish the season 11-1
Hmm.
with the best record with the best win in the country.
Yeah. Yep.
But they would not have a chance at winning an SEC championship. Now you could have Georgia then go beat Alabama and win the SEC championship, be 12-1, assuming a scenario in which the other conferences take care of business. Michigan or Ohio State goes undefeated, Florida State goes undefeated, Washington goes undefeated. They're all three in. You have one spot for an SEC team. How much does that head-to-head play into it, or how much does the SEC championship play into it?
I gotta think in that scenario, it's a little bit of tough luck for Ole Miss. I think that Georgia, with their pedigree, and assuming that would be their only loss, I think a little recency bias maybe plays into, especially how Georgia basically having that opportunity, I feel, in the biggest quote
Hmm.
unquote of stages thus far up to that point. I think Georgia, assuming that they're able to basically win a game, it's not this true back and forth. I guess the style in terms of the style how the SEC championship would play out. I think Georgia ultimately still, even though they had lost to Ole Miss, I think the title label kind of plays a little bit, maybe too much weight in this scenario.
Over the direct, because this wouldn't be an early season win. This would be a Week
Yeah.
11 win for Ole
Yes, it
Miss.
would.
Over Georgia, you still think they go. 3 weeks later, the committee comes back and says the team that lost that game's getting in over the team that won it, even though they're both one-loss teams.
Yeah, I think that might be the case. I guess partly to consider too with I guess so this week if they go
Mm-hmm.
in, we're talking what, the second ranked versus the ninth ranked team.
Mm-hmm.
Surely in that event we probably see maybe like a 4-5 where Georgia's maybe 5 with a loss, Ole Miss right at 4, or is that even too rich with still having to clear all the other teams that, assuming Georgia's like the only team ahead of them that loses.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, yeah. I still think in my heart of hearts, I think Georgia with their pedigree and the last couple seasons, but obviously it's about this season and what's been on the field and the results there. Um, I think they would lean Georgia. That's just
Okay.
that's just where I am.
One more wrinkle to throw into that. Let's say in this same scenario,
Hmm.
Texas also finishes the season undefeated, wins the Big 12 at 12-1. Do you think that maybe they give Texas the nod just to not have to pick between the two teams that played each other in the SEC? It would be the only time we've ever seen the SEC shut out of the 14 playoff in that scenario.
Yeah, and I don't think they would ever get shut out. I think they would have to just they would have to pick between two SEC. I don't think Texas would. There's as maybe as biased as I am, or as unfortunate as it sounds, it's almost like there's an automatic bid. I feel like for the
Mm-hmm.
SEC, which they've had in theory
Yeah,
up to
I
this
mean, like
point.
I said, they've never
It's a
been
bit
shut
of
out.
an automatic bid. Not even maybe in this scenario though. Maybe it's not an automatic conference winner, SEC championship winner, championship game winner, auto bid. Maybe it. It's a really that's an interesting. That is a very interesting scenario.
Yep.
I guess that could all be avoided if somehow Alabama were to slip up. But then again, they're still the head to head. So even if Alabama does lose,
Could be.
I think it's
Uh, it also could be avoided elsewhere if Alabama were to win that SEC championship game. Then Alabama would just be the SEC representative. Because then they'd be
true,
12-1 SEC champs with
true,
a win over
true.
Georgia and Ole Miss. There'd be
Yeah,
no argument at all.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that was a fun scenario I cooked up, as confused as it got me, even just explaining it.
Uh
But
huh.
my next one is, all right, let's say Georgia runs the table and with ease. So no one else in the SEC is even in consideration anymore. Again, Michigan or Ohio State does the same. Whoever wins the Big Ten is undefeated. Washington doesn't. All right. Florida State goes undefeated right up until the ACC championship game, where they lose to Louisville in a close game. Who comes out there? Now that Louisville team would be a 12-1 conference champ. I mean, essentially be in the same spot that Oregon or Texas are hoping to be in, or Bama is hoping to be in. 12-1 Power 5 conference champ. We don't think of Louisville on that level, but they would do it, and they would do it with a very impressive win over Florida State in the ACC title game.
Hmm.
Now, the other side of the coin would be Florida State would also be 12-1. They would have just lost the conference title
Hmm.
game.
Hmm.
But so, assuming a scenario in which, and let's just say for the fun of it, Texas loses, so they're not even in consideration. You're the committee. You're picking between these two ACC teams that just played in the title game, and Louisville won in a close game.
Yeah. So another either one of the two's gotta And so then you said, so for as far as we got, I mean, Washington's in there,
Washington's in, Ohio
Ohio
State's
State's
in.
in.
Let's say they blow out Michigan. Maybe Michigan
Hmm.
loses to Penn State this weekend too. So there's no
Hmm.
way there's two Big Ten teams getting
And
in.
then some SEC.
And Georgia
Yeah.
wins with ease as well. So 3 spots are locked up, can't be touched. It all comes down to these two ACC teams.
How did the Pac-12 title game fare?
Uh,
uh, I
we'll call that a close game. Say it was a field goal game again. That's still 2 losses for Oregon.
yes, it is. Uh, I think I think Louisville. I think Louisville actually sneaks through in that scenario because for the ACC, again, I think they would have to honor. I feel like the conference title winner in that
Okay, so you've
scenario.
got a lot of so far through our scenarios, you've got a lot of faith in them standing behind conference title winners. It
I
sounds like
think so. I think so.
you're split on head-to-heads, but you're 100% across the board on conference title winners.
Okay. Yep. That's kind of okay. Just trying to be being consistent,
Yeah,
relatively consistent. I think.
yeah. No, it's just interesting because it's one of the things we know the criteria, but none of us know how these conversations actually go down in the room.
Not really.
Uh,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. And then my final one. Uh, let's say Alabama takes care of business. They beat Georgia in the SEC title game. Again, we will go with Washington is in, Florida State is in, Ohio State is in. So we're looking for, again, you would have 12-1 Alabama and 12-1 Texas, both conference champs. They've got one head-to-head matchup, which Texas won, but it was early in the season, and Alabama's looked better than Texas since then.
Hmm. And Texas or oh man, because right now Texas in the rankings is slightly ahead, so they get to that point, but
Yes.
then it's in theory the overtaking right at the end in the
Yes, and
rankings.
you would have Alabama with a huge win over Georgia,
Yeah,
and Texas beating somebody not that great, whoever it
K
ends up
State,
being.
Oklahoma,
Yeah,
somebody, Oklahoma State. Although it might get to a Big 12 title game where it's two top 15 teams. To Texas fairness there.
top 15 still isn't as good as number one or two, whatever
No,
Georgia's at right
no,
now.
no, it's not. No, it is not. Yeah, I guess I think Bama. I think Bama. It would be quite the thing to right at the last leg they overtake basically a flip. They jump
Now,
Texas, but that would be like you're
so yeah,
saying the number one, number
you're not
two.
very high on head to head. You don't weigh head to head victories that highly. In 2 of the 3 scenarios I threw at you, you took the team that lost head to head over the team that won head to head.
Yeah, I think it's more of a recency. They're gonna look at it with more of a recency look. I guess it's not. It's gonna be, of course, something to factor. It's just, I guess. I mean, because yeah, that's just. I think they would go Bama. I think they would lean Bama, but it would be quite a decision to make there.
Okay.
Maybe we have to see how they. We'd have to see how they look in the time now leading up to then too. I feel like to some degree because with Texas getting Quinn Ewers back, depends. There's some maybe eye test element, man. But yeah, I think if I had to just throw it, I think it would. I think they would lean Bama if it is over basically like it's a CFP type game. It's like okay, it was almost like a play in a
Yeah.
way, but that would be brutal for a Texas fan. Brutal.
Yeah. And let me just complicate that last scenario a little
Okay,
bit more.
let's do this.
Let's say Washington does not win, Oregon wins in that Pac-12 title game. So now Oregon's 12-1
Hmm.
Pac-12 conference champs.
Hmm.
Also in the mix with 12-1 Bama SEC conference champs and 12-1 Texas. You get to pick 2 out of 3 in this scenario. Because
Two out of
Washington
three.
wouldn't
Because
be
Washington.
undefeated. So
I
say
think
Ohio
yeah.
State's still undefeated and Florida State's still undefeated, they're in. But 2 out of 3 from those 3.
Yeah. So I think it's I think we just find ourselves in the same conundrum we've just been talking about. I think it's just easily Oregon has to be in there. And then
So Texas is still
it's
on the
Texas
outside
versus
looking in.
Bama still. And I think Texas is just on the outside looking in. I mean, I could see if Texas so they almost have a little bit of a shock. Um, as weird as it is, it's almost like not a second chance or second life, but like it's like a reintroduction of potentially putting a Texas this stretched latter month of the season, almost putting in front of the committee, okay, like this is making a statement. This is who we are, with QB1 back. Maybe I mean, it's kind of weird to think, I guess, oh, he's better than ever coming off of an injury, but it's just a different. There's a lot of opportunity for Texas if they're able to kind of fire on all cylinders, run the table, not have a 24-21 game against a Houston type.
Mm-hmm.
If they're able to take care of business and then, yeah, handily run the table again against a 15th ranked Oklahoma State. They could. Then I could see. There's so much. There's too many variables, man. There's too many variables right now.
Okay, and let me make it even more difficult.
Okay, let's do this. Come on.
Florida State loses on Saturday to Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Come back strong, win every game with ease. They're 12-1 ACC champs. Where do they factor into this 12-1 menagerie that we've got going on?
I think they factoring in where they sit currently. I think, look, if they lose this weekend, I think it would just be almost a nail in the coffin because they lose ground and they fall. They fall from, what are they? They're 4 right now. They fall from 4 to 8. I think they're playing catch up to the Alabamas and Texases and Oregon. I don't think because you assume, okay, out of those bucket of 3 we've been talking about, there's at least going to be, it's one of those is going to be basically the replacement to, but then Michigan and Ohio State currently sit in there. So I think it would be 2 of those 3 then get in over Florida State that would lose, and potential Michigan, Ohio State that drops off. I think Florida State. I think but then again, I mean, you got, man, it's the ACC. I mean, there's good teams in the ACC. It's like, I just think it would be a little bit of a nail in the coffin. If Florida State were to lose.
And then let's just go nuts with the final piece of this puzzle.
Let's do this. Let's do it.
Penn State beats Michigan by maybe a field goal in this game.
Okay.
Maybe even like they get the ball back late on a blown call, so Michigan should have won. But they don't because of this blown call and a long field goal with time expiring.
Sure.
Penn State wins.
Sure.
But it really feels like anybody's game. But Penn State did win it. Michigan goes and blows out Ohio State. Blows them out. Now, Penn State gets in on the tiebreaker scenario. We don't know how the tiebreaker scenario is going to break down. It's they have to go to like their 4th tiebreaker because they're tied in the first 3, all 3 teams. If this scenario plays out, it would come down to the record of the Big Ten West opponents they play. So like you don't all play the same teams on the other side of the Big Ten, and so whoever got Iowa, if they end up with the best record, it's within a couple games now. They all now have to be rooting for the Big Ten West teams that they've already beaten. But let's just say Penn State ends up with the best record against Big Ten, whatever you call that. Penn State would then go to the Big Ten championship, say they win it. They're a 12-1 Big Ten champ. No way the Big Ten champ is out, right?
Correct.
But now you have 11-1 Michigan, who's just slipped up one time in a game that could have gone any way, and they blew out Ohio State. Who are they pushing out to get in, or do they not get in? Does this cloud hanging over them have something to do with it?
I think the cloud's too powerful, maybe. I think, and I mean in that scenario, okay, so yeah, it's Penn State, but then I think there would be just an easy case for them, the committee, to figure out 3 more teams. I think.
Well, we're putting this in the scenario where now there are no undefeated teams. Alabama is 12-1, Texas is 12-1, Oregon's 12-1, Washington's 12-1, but not the Pac-12 conference champ. Florida State's 12-1. this wild scenario we've concocted where everybody loses once. Then Georgia would also be a 12-1 non-conference champ though, and Michigan's 11-1, but that one is sketchy.
I just think it would be too easy that Michigan, they just don't they don't get in. Michigan, I think, has to win out.
All right. I tend to disagree there. I think they've been so high in the polls and everything that, and they've looked so dominant. I think they could survive one close loss. Now, the best scenario for them would be to obviously win the tiebreakers, get into the Big Ten championship game. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's just a fun exercise. I was up last night going, what if this team loses? What if that team wins? What if
just in the lab there cooking that?
And that's why we love this sport. You get to do it. This is the time of year where we get to do this so much, and then it just something wonky happens, and it doesn't even end up mattering because like Florida State loses to Georgia Tech or something.
Yep. It all could it could be as early as this week. Something crazy happens.
Yep.
And just throws a wrench into everything. But speaking of crazy, I guess before we really, dig into week 11 here, speaking of Michigan, as of recording this on a Friday afternoon, Connor, any notable updates, just nuggets to throw out there with this Michigan drama?
No updates, although a story broke this morning that the Big Ten was planning on suspending Jim Harbaugh for the rest of the regular season today. They were going to make the announcement at some point. We are recording at 3:18 p.m. right now. It has not yet happened, but there are still people, up until we started recording this episode, I was refreshing feeds and stuff, still people saying this is going to happen, it's going to happen today. Jim Harbaugh's lawyer has made a statement. He said Jim's going to be in Happy Valley this Saturday no matter what. And then there was the update that he got on the bus. He is currently on a bus headed to Penn State. So he will be there. Whether he's suspended or not, I guess, is still up in the air. Mm-hmm. But the point of his lawyer's statement was to say, even if they do this, we're immediately going to file an injunction and he's going to coach on Saturday. Doesn't mean he's going to coach next week. Doesn't mean he's going to coach in 2 weeks against Ohio State. But that's the report that's swirling. Who knows if it'll actually happen? Apparently, to get over a 2-game suspension from the Big Ten, it needs to be approved by a special board. The NCAA can levy any suspension they want, but the Big Ten can only levy up to a 2-game suspension without this special approval. So perhaps that's what they're waiting on. We don't know. By the time this episode's out, we probably will know. Maybe we'll record an emergency addendum to the end of the episode, but
yeah, it's I don't know. It's gonna be, if there was a situation, a total chaotic ordeal that we've got ongoing here. If there ever was a chance to maybe levy some in-season, it would be in-season suspension or some penalty. I guess this kind of would be it, but it's just the precedents of Michigan, or not Michigan, just even a conference or the NCAA. It's just almost maybe feels like somebody's waiting for someone to do something, and then it's just gonna all gonna follow suit with every possible.
It does feel like everybody just keeps stacking dominoes, and eventually the first one's going to fall and everything's going to explode. But
yeah, and then just piggyback off. We just and say, independent of Michigan, the independent of a university or a conference, whatever party wants to say which. Oh, now we also have concluded an investigation, and we are levying or putting this into place in a form of punishment. But it would just be something if we see, something happens today, week 11, and then it just clouds. Yeah, it clouds. Does even potentially coach against, like you're saying, on Ohio State in the biggest game of the season. But it's, as per usual, just so much still up in the air and to be determined, to be continued, ever continued, it seems like. But yeah, good dive in there and look into where we're standing and where things might go. let's talk about where things might go with these games, Connor.
Yes, let's do it. And let's start with this, the biggest game of the slate, the
Yep.
only thing we want to talk about, the
Hmm.
only thing we've been reading about. It's Michigan Penn State.
It is.
And it does, like I said, it still has the potential to lead to the wildest scenario, something we've all been rooting for kind of for years, just for the chaos of Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State all going 1-1 against each other and having a weird tiebreaker to see who gets to the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah.
I personally am rooting for Penn State just because I want the chaos, and then I'll be rooting for Michigan against Ohio State. I would love to see that break down, but
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm there with you. Maybe I'd like to see Penn State win this game. Do I think Penn State wins this game? No. Do I think it's do I think Penn State makes it really, is it all that close? Not necessarily. I think it's maybe similar to how they played Ohio State in terms of maybe it's like a on paper within single digits, but never truly in the same class throughout the course of the
yeah, that
game.
was the biggest beatdown that ever was a one-score game.
Yeah.
It never felt like Penn State had a chance, but
No.
you go back and look at the score, and you're like, oh, one-score game.
Yeah. So I could see, I could see a 20 to 14 game, and Michigan just controls the game, which is kind of, yeah, that's kind of my how I see this quote unquote game script, whatever, going. And yeah, I kind of do have, with everything that's surrounding them. I kind of, maybe it's the statement or legacy game. I just see Michigan kind of handling things here. I mean, what do you? So obviously we'd like to see Penn State, but do you think, where do you put their chances in this one?
Yeah. I mean, there's one outside factor that we don't really know how much it's going to play a factor or not play a factor at
Hmm.
all, which is that Penn State certainly has changed all of their signs for this game. So even if there was pre-scouting, even if they had their signs from last year, Connor
Sure.
Stalions paid someone week one, doesn't matter. All of their signs will be completely different. So Michigan will not have any sign stealing advantage. Now, to hear some other people in the college football world talk about it, coaches and retired coaches and former players,
Hmm.
a lot of them say, hey, everybody steals signs every game. Michigan's just the one that got caught.
Sure.
And so there is no advantage.
Hmm.
But who knows? I mean, this will be a real test of, was there an advantage? If so, how great of an advantage has Michigan had that they won't have this week?
Hmm.
So that's a little interesting. But outside of that, take it away, pretend that there was no controversy. We never knew Connor Stallion's name.
Hmm.
I think Michigan's the better team. I think that Michigan might be the best team in the country. They've just been so dominant all year. But the reason they've been able to be dominant all year, they haven't played any. This is the first real test they have. And so it'll be really interesting to say. And specifically, this is going to be the best defense they've played
Sure.
by
Absolutely.
a long shot.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of stats and things that would tell you that JJ McCarthy has really upped his game this year. But again, has he played a defense that has really tested him until this week? We'll see. It'll be interesting. So I don't have a great feel on how this game is going to go. I think we'll know early, though. I think a couple drives into the game, we'll be able to tell, can they disrupt this Michigan offense, or is it just going to be another steamrolling?
Okay. Yep. I got you. I think McCarthy will be such a huge. I mean, if there ever is a Heisman moment potential
Oh,
game,
yeah.
this is it. And especially, yeah, with even. I mean, I see there's a delicate argument for the Heisman. I mean, in its own right, which I think, if anything, JJ McCarthy could really harness, or how they should maybe perceive this, is harness the adversity or maybe the
Mm-hmm.
cloud, everything that's clouding the program. And if he goes out and has incredible performances to close this year, he certainly, I think, deserves the Heisman at that point, considering all the different factors that play into, that a single player might be having to navigate there. But yeah, so then that sense, I kind of maybe believe in McCarthy a little bit more, and I do kind of wink wink have a little bit more of a strong conviction, I guess, in how I see this game, which we'll get into soon later enough. But yeah, should be quite a game. Of course, the good old big noon kickoff, baby.
Yeah.
Right, getting up, starting the day, as well as starting the day with Bama, Kentucky. I think Kentucky, Bama 11-point favorite here in Lexington. Maybe a game that you would think in theory Kentucky really gets up for it, but ultimately I don't think they have the talent to really compete.
This line really surprised me. It's an 11-point line. I don't know why it's not a 21-point line. It just feels like Kentucky, all of that shine has worn off them from early in the season, and now they're kind of back to being same old Kentucky. And Bama, who we thought was struggling early, now they're back to being same old Bama, who just,
Yeah.
bullies teams. So, yeah, I think this is Bama pretty easy, in my opinion.
I would lean there too.
Potential, like it could be a slip up spot, could be a look ahead for Bama. They're already thinking about the SEC title game in a few weeks and stuff, and got to get there first. But but I don't see Kentucky being the team to come up and get them.
I don't either. Especially and from the SEC, I don't see a team from the SEC East. Yeah. But staying in this noon kickoff window, a interesting Big 12 clash with Texas Tech taking on 16th ranked Kansas in Lawrence. This seemingly to pick up maybe where you just kind of left off there. Kansas being only 4 points kind of surprises maybe me slightly. I'd think maybe it would be more like at minimum like a touchdown, like 6.5, 7.
You're right. This line is so confusing to me. I'm going to go ahead and pre-declare right now Texas Tech +4 on my best bets.
Really?
I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Kansas is the better team. They've been the better team all year. They're at home. They're ranked. They're loving the new quarterback. Everything points to Kansas big here, and it's a 4.5-point line, 4-point line. Yeah. Somebody knows something I don't. I'm taking Texas Tech +4.
Okay.
Just wrote it down so I remember it in the best bets.
Interesting. Okay. Maybe it's a gut. Maybe it's a potential head-to-head there. But, yeah, we'll see. Love the live reaction, though. I mean, taking at face value, it's like, okay, this is when you're watching us being, for the most part, forced to, okay, where are we going to, we can't just, fence it totally. We have, we're watching us have to make some judgment calls. Haven't been right most of the time necessarily, but we were 3-3 last week. We've been trending one game better each week, so potential 4-2. Not going to jinx anything, but not going to say anything more than that. But wrapping up the noon window here, Tulsa against Tulane, 23.5 points at home in New Orleans there for Tulane. I think that seems, relatively appropriate. I mean, do you have any convictions either way there, Con?
I got nothing on this game. Tulsa's not good. Tulane is.
Simple as that. Makes sense that the line is what it is. Yeah. Just not really going out of our way to put something on this game. Heading into Boulder here. But your Wildcats already got your over win total for the season. My Buffaloes, we're down to the final 3 here. We got to go 2 for 3. You're at home here. I think this is actually the last home game. It's going to be 2 on the road after this for Colorado. So really need this one to figure out how to find a way. But we're going up against the number 21 ranked Arizona Wildcats, who have just been really taking care of business. I mean, just taking care of business in an incredibly strong conference. Rightfully ranked. Probably truly more on the inside in terms of the top 20 line more than on the outside where they are currently in terms of how good the team.
They're still fighting early season losses when they were a different team.
Yeah, it's just been an uphill climb. But since then, they're up there for one of the strongest performing teams. And it's, going up against, you think, freshman quarterback. You think of the likes of, I guess what I had hoped maybe we had gone against the freshman in Dante Moore, but then of course Chip Kelly makes the switch there. But talk about Pac-12 freshman quarterbacks. We're not talking Dante Moore. We're not talking Malachi Nelson. We're not even talking Aiden Childs, although he at Oregon State, he's the next man up after DJU. We're talking Noah Fafita. The guy's been a monster. But I think, I've been rolling with Colorado for my best bets the last couple weeks, and they've been covering because they've been getting these large lines here. And another game at home here. 10 makes it interesting for me. It's like right on my line. I think it's a good line. I think it's a good line. Maybe in my heart of hearts, trying to take bias out of it.
Mhm.
So I would lean Colorado to cover, but I'm not so wholeheartedly convicted to place anything in Colorado's favor other than the significant bet I put on them preseason. I'll just say it that.
Yeah, I mean, I could see Colorado doing what they've done a couple times with the late backdoor cover points
Yeah,
that don't matter, but it
they're
gets it
not even in
within
the
10.
game. Yeah,
Um, but if they want any chance of winning this game, which I personally don't think they really have, but if they want one, they're gonna have to score a lot of points because they're not stopping this offense, and so they're gonna have to win it in a shootout if they have any chance of winning it.
I mean, yeah, I think. Well, I think it's just every game. It's just they just can you try to protect Shador Sanders? Just try not to. I mean, part of it's on him for trying to obviously extend every play because he knows it's
Mhm.
far and few between that he gets the time to do so. So whenever he can create, he has to. But yeah, I mean, it's just been brutal, brutal watching this Colorado team with honestly semblances of good play, good units,
Mhm.
places almost
Yeah.
everywhere outside of the O line. It's just been a struggle to put things together on both sides, and it's always been this offensive line unit that's been kind of weighing them down. And it's tough to see because if they just did have a semblance of an O line, I mean, who knows? Maybe they're the number 21 ranked team because they could have easily, there could have been a couple games where it's
Yeah.
probably a completely
Yeah,
different
not
game.
being able to
But
protect Shador has really hurt them,
yep,
but
yep. But it is what it is. We'll see if you can rise to the occasion. Your last home game in Folsom this season. Not like you're moving stadiums. Just want to clear that last game this season at home. But yeah. So recap. You're not really too eager to put anything on this one, or
um we'll get to that in the best bets.
okay. Sounds
But
good.
as far as the line 10, I don't
Okay, I see. Okay, I think I see
yeah.
I think we're seeing where this is going. Fair enough. Fair enough. Big 12, Baylor against Kansas State. Kansas State. So we're talking into Manhattan, Kansas here. We are talking a 21 3 touchdown line there for Kansas State. Seems relatively right because of how bad Baylor's been this season
Mhm.
and the talent that Kansas State does have. I guess I don't know. Part of me does think maybe it ends up being a 17-point win and Baylor maybe covers this. That's maybe where I would lean, but I'm not too convicted.
Yeah. I mean, my takeaway here is just like what happened to Baylor? Dave Aranda
It's
comes
just
in,
been,
goes
yeah.
10-2, wins the Big 12
It's
in
like a
what I think either
reverse
his
Matt
first or
Rule.
second year, and then
Yeah.
it's been bad. It's been ugly.
hmm
It's not what you were hoping for, not what you thought you would get once you had that, beginning to his career at Baylor.
No, not in the slightest. Just very odd to say the least. But
But yeah, it's I mean, I'm not going to bet this game, but 21 seems like a good enough line. Kansas State's pretty good, Baylor's pretty
yeah,
bad.
yeah. Are you gonna bet your Canes 14-point dogs in Tallahassee?
Well, I refuse to bet against Miami, but a smarter man than I would, because this team has totally lost it. Uh, Tyler Van Dyke, who at one
Just
point,
gonna say, yeah.
yeah, we had incredibly high hopes for, and
hmm
showed it, played really well at the beginning of his career.
Yeah.
He looks like you or I out there these days. I know he's coming back from two separate injuries, and that can hamper him, but it doesn't even look like he's seeing the field well. It's been a really ugly offensive show in the last couple weeks for
Mm.
Miami. So yeah, I don't think 14's a big enough line here. If I could bring myself to bet against Miami, I would.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I I don't know. Part of it is maybe I'm just thinking Florida State in the terms of the top five, if you want to say the top five, six, seven teams in the country. The ACC, I don't know. It's just such. I keep saying, I said it before. It's kind of like a wild card for me. It's like the wild card conference where, and then you still have the likes of a Louisville team who's gonna, when it's all
Yeah.
said and done, maybe conference title weekend, crack the top 10ish. And Florida State, it's just yeah. I'm just almost kind of staying away from. I think for as far as betting goes, at least for now.
hmm
But I think it's another game where, Florida State absolutely should win. We talked about it before, maybe they come out a little bit slower, but we'll see. I think, if I had to go with, I'm not calling any upset alert here. I just think it's weird. I'm not trying to I don't see clear enough with the Florida State Seminoles here, or even with Miami, because of the talent, of course, Miami team always has in terms of 4 or 5-star players and making potential plays. And each game, it's all a game of inches or all on the margin. So a special teams play here or there, penalty. It could all. There's so many factors that could happen here, and hence I'm just trying to stay away from this one. But I'm not trying to stay away from, which we'll get into later, Utah Washington. Interesting bout here. A Utah team their real potential statement game of the year, going into Seattle against the Washington team that's really had the inside track, or still has the inside track to the CFP within that conference. And quite honestly, maybe Utah takes some offense to how they've maybe fallen out of the spotlight, and potential statement game here. I don't know. I'm 9-point line here for Washington at home. Obviously, there's the baked in. You get like 3. We'll say 3, so 3 points. Maybe they're saying neutral site, like a touchdown game. I don't want. I'm not confident or betting the line here.
Okay.
I'm not. How about you, Con?
This one, to me, all depends on what Washington team shows up.
Sure.
Utah has been actually remarkably consistent in being one of the better teams in the country. They had one big, fumble at Oregon, basically.
Yep.
Other than that, they've been Utah, which is not one of the best teams in the country, but very good, solid, strong defensively, an offense that can, matriculate the ball down the field, isn't going to be built on crazy big plays or, anything like Washington's electric offense, but can get the job done, and a really strong defense and a great head coach, and that's just what they've been. Other than that 1 week they got their doors blown off by Oregon. But if we see the Washington team that played Arizona State come out, Utah will win this game. If we see the Washington that beat Oregon come out, Washington will win this game. To me, I don't have to question what Utah team is showing up, but I do have to question what Washington team is showing up.
Sure. That's fair enough. I think, it's Utah. They kind of are this label, it seems, in year out, of kind of one of the more quote unquote dangerous teams in the country, because they're always putting somebody, whether it's, they've had USC's number now for the last, 3, 4, 5 times running now, but they're always one of these, they're always kind of in that middle third of like the top 25, 30 teams in the country, I guess you want to say. And they're always one of the, you're always on upset alert if you're this top 10 team playing the 17th, 16th, 18th ranked Utah team. And for that reason, I just can't, I can't pick against them in terms of the line here. I think maybe I lean, this is more of a touchdown game. And I would think Washington maybe ekes out with the home field and potential similar game script to what we saw, or I don't know. I do know, or I don't know, but I'm convicted in the script of how it might go, not maybe who wins or by how much. I'll just say that. But any more thoughts on that one, Connor? Just move on.
No, I think we can move on from that.
Sounds good.
We'll go right down to an SEC matchup that is usually not this not prominent of a game.
No, not
number
not
13
this.
in the country playing number 14 in the country.
Yeah.
And we're talking about Tennessee, Missouri.
Yeah. Weird to say they're both top 15 teams. That's crazy. And especially imagine this time next year where it's potentially they're both maybe knocking on the playoff for a expanded playoff format. That would be crazy.
In a 12-team playoff, these two teams would both be firmly in the mix.
Yeah. And that'll just be wild. We'll cross those bridges when we get there. Talking about, it's funny, this, earlier in this season, just about a week ago, for in terms of our show segments here, questions about going as wild to say 2 teams from the same conference CFP scenarios when there's 4. Yeah, we're gonna get to probably 4 might even be as wild to say like five teams from the same conference scenario for in a 12-team format. It could be possible, but yeah, we'll see. That'll be super fun, and there's gonna be obviously we're gonna know so much more at this point next year, but we're talking this point this year in Columbia. I guess they kind of have the Columbia. They've won the Columbia Bowl, so
Yeah.
although I'm a little biased, I like the other Columbia in South Carolina. That is, but that home field advantage, Tennessee 2.5 point. Talk about shock lines. This one is great. This one's actually wild to me. That is wild to me. I wow. Okay. I don't know if I want to go the same course of action you went when you saw the Kansas -4 at home there.
Hmm.
But now it's seeing a home dog in Missouri. I mean, oh my God. I don't know if it because I think in Missouri I should just chalk it up as a best bet in favor of Tennessee there, but no, you know what? Yeah, I'll add. No, I won't go as far as say them a best bet. I like Missouri. They're an honorable mention for me. I like Missouri uh, to do more than the cover the 2.5. I think I'd like them to win the game at home,
Hmm.
to be frank. But how about you?
Missouri's looked like the better team to me all
Yeah.
season. But the thing is, they've struggled with teams that have those top end recruit type of, 4 and 5 star guys. And it's, it's a simple way to break down the sport, but it turns out to be true way more often than not. The stars matter, and that stuff matters, and the team with the better players will win the game more often than not. And that's kind of what Missouri has looked like. They've been probably the most like consistent, best coached, good at fundamentals team in the SEC this year. Uh, and they've, like I said, they've struggled against bigger, stronger, faster teams. Tennessee's got some big, strong, fast dudes. So I wasn't shocked by the line. Um, and I, sure, if you're making me, I'll pick the better team getting the points at home. I would pick Missouri because of that, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if Tennessee wins by a touchdown.
Okay. Big 12 here. Oklahoma State against a UCF team that already made some headway against the state of Oklahoma, and the Sooners made it really close in a very good game there. But OK State only 2.5 point favorite. I guess they are going to Orlando there. It
Mm-hmm.
is an away game, which it is. I guess some maybe easy to overlook. I guess the travel element going from Texas or not Texas, Oklahoma, excuse
Mm-hmm.
me, to yeah, Florida. A Florida Big 12 team just sounds weird,
It
very
does.
weird. But
Um, yeah, I mean, I think UCF is better than their record this year.
sure.
Um, they're they're not an incredible team. I don't think Oklahoma State really is either. It's kind of a they're probably closer in terms of talent and how well they've played this year than their records would show.
Hmm.
John Reese Plumlee is really the engine that makes everything happen for UCF, and he's missed time and he's played dinged up and
Hmm.
all of that. So I think that's hurt UCF. Probably makes them look not quite as great as they are. And Oklahoma State, I don't want to take anything away. On paper, they're not number 15 in the country, 7-2, but they go out on the field and they win games, and they've won 7 and lost 2, so that makes them 7-2.
It does. That it does.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this game? Because this is another one I could see going either way.
Yeah, I guess I do lean. I don't know, maybe if I'm attaching a bit of a label because now I'm seeing, oh my God, Oklahoma State, 15th best team in the country, question mark, which maybe to your point, maybe they're not the true identity of the 15th best team in college football
Mm-hmm.
at this stage on Friday, November 10th, by virtue of all the other things that's transpired in the sport. That's where they find themselves in the rankings. Obviously, they don't rank themselves. We're not talking about that, but I think I kind of would lean Oklahoma State here. I think they have momentum in the right way to take care of business. And obviously, look, we're talking if I think they're going to win. I mean, it would be tough. It would be right on the margin, obviously, for them to win and not cover a 2.5 point line.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I do like Oklahoma State in this one.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I don't have a great feeling either way. If I had to lean one way, I might lean UCF, just off of, all of a sudden this is like a huge game for them. They can beat the number 15 team in the country, even though, as I said, that's probably not they're the 15th ranked team. They're not the 15th best team. You put it perfectly that way. But still, all of a sudden, this becomes a huge game for UCF. It's at home. They still want to make their big splash in the Big Ten. They almost beat Oklahoma. They had them right up till the last play of the game. So yeah, I'll take UCF here.
Cool. Are you taking Rutgers or are you taking Iowa?
I'm taking Rutgers. I love Rutgers here. This is another one. Every time I've watched these two teams play all year, Rutgers has looked like the better team.
Yeah, Greg Schiano, he can get those guys to play. I mean, look at Ohio State just last week. Got out to a halftime lead. I mean, yeah, they're Rutgers. Yeah, I think I'm with you there. I think in picking this game, they are on the road here, but they're just you can kind of just rely on them to show up, a team that shows up at least. And against a Iowa team, look, you're not going to have to score that many points, I don't think.
No. Yeah, also you throw in there now Iowa's got a lame duck offensive coordinator. How does that affect the mood in the building and whatnot? I mean, I guess they're probably still pretty high on themselves. Out in Ames, they're 7-2. They're ranked. They're all of that.
I guess Iowa City.
Yes, Ames is Iowa State.
Iowa State.
I apologize.
To the Iowans out there.
Yes, love my Iowans.
Iowans?
So yeah, they're probably pretty high on themselves, I guess. I can't imagine how you would be after watching this team play all season, though, because it's just been ugly football, even when they win.
Yeah, it's just that classic Big Ten West football moniker there that I guess, but it's just you don't have any, you're not instilled with any or enthused with any confidence there in that team.
No, and the whole, by the way, the entire Big Ten West is still playing for the chance to play in the Big Ten championship game. Literally every single one of them is alive. So these are huge games for these teams.
Sure.
It's certainly nobody's going to take it lightly going into these with the chance to play. I did see one of the funniest things ever. I think there's still a potential for a 5-team tie in the Big Ten West.
Yeah, just root for chaos in the Big Ten in general, man. That would be incredible.
Yeah.
The East, the Big Three, all one loss, 1-1 versus each other. And and then that would be incredible. Yeah. They might have to have Big Ten playoffs before the playoffs. Big Ten.
Well, I did look it up. If that's all tied, which it very well could be, your opponent's records in the Big Ten on the other side of the conference. If that's all tied, then they go to your opponent's records in your non-conference schedule. There's a chance that still potentially those could all be tied in the Big Ten East because they all didn't play anybody good in the non-conference.
But that's, oh my God, a non-conference though. You're putting your hands in Youngstown State or Jacksonville State. That would be crazy if that were.
But if potentially those were all tied, it's settled by coin flip. How electric would that be?
Yeah, if it would get to that point, I mean, that would be absurd to think about because all the combinations, I mean, it would be the record. So the record of your non-conference, so that's what, you're talking 2, 3 games, 4 games a season, and you're talking 36, I don't know, 12 times 4, you're talking like 50 some odd total games that you have any combination of a win-loss up to, that would be, if there would be ties to that extent, that would be unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable. But
you're right. Having Ohio State sitting around a TV at the end of the season going, "Go Youngstown State, we need you." Yeah. It would be very funny.
Yeah.
Or Penn State doing it for UMass.
Yeah, exactly. Michigan for Bowling Green State. Yeah. That would just be unbelievable. But, yeah. I think simple enough. We both kind of like Rutgers here. Enough Big Ten 180, 360 foot view there. Pac-12, excuse me, pretty much the last year of it. We'll see what happens in that conference. But Stanford going to Corvallis. or Corvallis. I'm not sure the native tongue.
Oh, it's
How
definitely
that's
not
not
Corvallis.
Corvallis. Yeah. Although I don't know, maybe Oregon. Maybe there's some German roots there. We don't know. We don't know. But yeah, Oregon State 21-point line there at home against a Stanford team, who's not not all that great. Unfortunately, I had to see their greatness when I had Alec Ayo Manor, shout out to one of the OG Ballin of the Weeks here. Alec Ayo Manor just going crazy with oh my god, that Stanford comeback against
Yeah.
Colorado, but I don't think they're going to be. I don't think that's anything close to possible against a Oregon State team that's just playing good football and is a good team.
No,
Really
Oregon
good team.
State last week showed me a lot. They got up off the mat after getting knocked down, and yeah, I think they're one of the best teams in the country. Still, they're they're a two-loss team, but they're a two-loss team because we keep talking about how everyone in the Pac-12 can play ball,
Yep.
and that's a really, really difficult conference to not come out of with a couple losses.
Hmm.
Uh, One of the teams in the Pac-12 that maybe can't play ball that much is Stanford. So yeah, I got Oregon State big here.
Yeah, I think the line. I think it won't be close at all. Getting into a big one here, we have Ole Miss against Georgia in Athens, 10.5 point line here. Are you convicted anyway here?
I think they're gonna do it, man. I think Ole Miss wins this game.
Wow, really, really?
Yeah. Now, I don't see this being a game where Ole Miss loses but covers. I guess I should say. I think
It's either
either Georgia's going to come out and be like, "Yeah, we're still Georgia. We're the bullies of the SEC. Yeah, and you're still Ole Miss, and it's 28-7 or something," or Ole Miss is going to do it, which is where I'm kind of leaning. I think they can score with anybody in the country. I know they can. We've seen them do it. They can put up a ton of points. They can score quickly. I think Ole Miss might just out offense Georgia in this game.
wow. Okay, I'm kind of the I guess other scenario that you described. It's either I think Georgia is gonna make us. I think Georgia makes a statement. Honestly, that's where I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty confident about that. Honestly,
All right,
we'll see.
we
We will
will see.
see. Oklahoma, West Virginia. Oklahoma, 17th ranked team, just trying to, I guess, make some noise here to close out the year.
Mm-hmm.
11.5 point favorite. I kind of feel like West Virginia maybe covers an 11.5 here. Maybe it's a 8 point game.
West Virginia's having a much better season than people projected. I don't
Mhm.
believe many people had them even projected to be bowl eligible. So
No, nope.
sitting at 6-3 with a couple nice wins in the holster.
Mhm.
They're playing pretty good football. So 11.5 is a pretty decent number. The only thing is it's a natural bounce back spot for Oklahoma. Come out, put up a bunch of points, and be like,
Yeah, yeah.
you
I
know,
mean, but we've said that before with this team,
yeah,
Oklahoma. I just don't think they're a team that's against these true, respectable Big 12 opponents. I don't think they have a real blowout type of game in their arsenal. I
yeah,
don't think.
and they got to be pretty down around that building, around that program right now. A couple weeks ago they were thinking college football playoff. Now they're not even really playing for anything.
Not really. Not necessarily. Yeah. No.
Yeah. So you know what? You're right. You convinced me. I'm taking West Virginia in the points.
Cool. We'll see how that check in on the convincing I do and the picks I give out to you all. But Ohio State, number one ranked team in the country, 31.5 points against Michigan State there. Huge line, but man, they have had Michigan State's number the last several years here. I know my guy CJ Stroud's had five. He throws 5 touchdowns in the first half against these guys. We're talking obviously Kyle McCord now, but I just think as a team, I could see Kyle McCord. I mean, maybe he has a 3 touchdown game in the first half. Trevion Henderson, 2 more on the ground. I mean, 31.5 is just a little bit too large, though. I feel like for me to plant a flag with confidence either way in terms of that 31.5 line. But yeah, I don't, it's not gonna be like a Maryland or Rutgers type game where it's remotely close.
No, if you live in Columbus, stay at home and watch the Ole Miss Georgia game. There's not even a reason to go to this thing. Michigan State will not score 1 point. I mean,
Yeah, just be surprised at some highlights that you consume. Oh my God, Maserati Marv. Oh my God,
yeah,
Corvette. Just take it in that way. Be surprised, at 4 o'clock, or I guess no, be surprised around like 11 o'clock
yeah,
for you guys. But yeah, it's kind of weird almost saying an Ohio State game that's not at noon. It feels
yeah,
like they're
yeah.
always that I guess Big Ten that noon
Hmm.
kickoff there. But yeah, I think that not too much needs to be said there. Texas though against a TCU team, man, it's crazy to think TCU just last year got it all the way to the title game, and obviously it's so much turnover, different roster
Yeah,
at so many different key areas. But Quinn Ewers return game, Texas. Well, it's obviously a Texas matchup here. They're going to Fort Worth. I don't know. I guess I'm just interested. I don't know how much of a. I'm curious to see when I watch it how much of a home field advantage it is, being that it is a Texas bout there.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm just intrigued by that. But 12 points, I don't know. I think I like Texas.
I think when these two teams get together, it actually typically is a fairly large home field advantage, just because, or at least when it's at TCU, I should say, just because this is one of the more underrated rivalries people don't talk about. TCU fans hate Texas. Texas is the big bad wolf to them,
Yeah.
and even for years now, they've had a better program than Texas. And ask anybody off the street who's got a better football program, TCU or Texas. Everyone's saying Texas. There were years when Texas was winning 4 games and TCU was winning 9, and everyone's like, "Well, Texas is still Big Brother."
Yeah.
So TCU fans get really up for this game. So it probably will be. There will probably be a lot of purple in the crowd, but I think on the field, it's still going to be Texas all the way.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. Florida taking on an LSU team that just had a tough loss to Bama. I think, yeah, they finally admit there they kind of ended their CFP chances uh, to my disappointment
I should
there.
have thrown a scenario at you where all these teams I mentioned lose twice between now and the end, and LSU's back in it.
You got it. You got it. Might as well rank LSU number one at that point, man. But jokes aside, yeah, 15 points. I think that's kind of fair enough. Assuming that Jaden Daniels is at the helm here, I mean, I think LSU should be able to cover that against a mediocre Florida team that's kind of capable of something week to
Yeah.
week, but I'm just not confident that it's going to be against this offense.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how healthy and mobile and everything Jaden Daniels looks, because that's
Yeah.
such a large component of their
Yeah.
offense.
No. Yep.
But yeah, I mean, LSU's the much better team. Could I see a scenario in which he's hampered or maybe has to come out of the game or something and all of a sudden Florida's in it? Sure. But if we're just going to assume good health, then yeah, take LSU, give the points. They can win this by a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think, yeah, simple enough there. A classic ACC basketball matchup, but we're talking football. Duke against UNC here. UNC back in the top 25. UNC, it's like a revolving door for them. I feel like it's just been a weird season, a disappointing season, I think, with relative to some expectations there.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking UNC 13-point favorites. Not quite, or I guess technically more than 2 touchdowns, more than 12 points, but we assume in college extra points are pretty much guaranteed here. But how do you feel about this one, Connor?
Yeah, I think the carriage that was Duke football has turned back into a pumpkin. Um, the one saving grace they could have is obviously this is a big rivalry game. This is a game that will have no home field advantage when they get together in football. Is stadiums are half and half. When it's basketball season, obviously the home team gets a bunch of
Crazy, yeah.
tickets,
The
and
best.
but I happen to have two of my very best friends. One went to Duke, one went to North Carolina. I've been down there for these games. I've seen them. It's there won't be a home field advantage, but I also don't think that'll matter much because North Carolina is just the better team.
Mm-hmm. I think, yeah. Definitely just more talent. I think a little bit more firepower, more going in their direction. Yeah, not really looking, not thrilled to put something on this game, quite, you know, truly. But I think, yeah, if I had to guess, UNC, I think, can definitely walk out of this with a win.
Mm-hmm.
Um, USC against Oregon to round out the top 25 matchups here at the only at 10:30 Eastern time here, so we'll have a good little after dark Pac-12 clash here. But yeah, I looking at this now. So I know it's in Eugene. So Oregon got the home field, and it's we're talking 15 and a half though. 15 and a half, which yeah, I mean, man, this one's interesting to me. This is interesting to me. Connor, I'll let you how about you take this one away with your thoughts on this one, where how you see this.
I think the natural way to look at this is to just say USC's dead. They thought they were going to be playing for a national championship. Now they're playing for nothing. It's over. Oregon rolls. The thing is, criticized for it or, fairly, unfairly, whatever you think, we clearly saw how much Caleb Williams still cares last week.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think he's going to roll out there and be like, the season's over. Let me just not get hurt. So I think there's some life to this USC team. I also think Oregon's just much better than them, but
Yeah,
15 and a half is a big number, like you said, especially the way that USC can score. It's tough to blow out a team that, even when they're not playing well, is going to put up 21 points or something.
mm-hmm.
So I would take USC to cover here, but I think Oregon's still. I mean, it might be a 14-point game, which they cover by a point and a half, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Oregon is really scared at any point in this game. But 15 and a half is a big number.
That it is, and live reaction here. I'm throwing USC one of my plus 15 and a half. That's one of my best bets here.
All right.
I guess before we fully go off the ledge there to the best bets, any closing thoughts, Connor, the slate as a whole, or just specific games or things you want to mention off the top of your head? Anything?
No, I just can't wait for Saturday. I
Yeah,
mean, this is
it's
it's a packed slate and
it
with
is.
so much riding on so many of these games
We're,
still.
we yeah, exactly. We really are getting into it. It just means too much. Too much is on the line for all these basically top four hopefuls in
Yeah.
particular. So yeah, best bets. I just
Mhm.
hinted. Well, not hinted. When it's well farther than that. USC plus 15 and a half to cover that in Eugene. I know, but with literally kind of how you laid it out, Connor,
Mhm.
I'm right there with you. It's so easy to at face value analyze USC. Really difficult, tough downward spiral
Mhm.
season. Oregon conversely, so complete and a very good football team, and complete and really hasn't looked bad any game this season. USC on the other hand, I mean, they had more of a tough middle third of their schedule where Caleb Williams struggled and they obviously struggled. Notre Dame being the game that still jumps out with, a huge shock factor like, oh my God.
Mhm.
Um, but like you said, I think Caleb Williams, I'll put my money with him and that offense to still keep it within 14, a two touchdown game. I think that's safely. And then we even saw, look, they were at home against Washington,
Mhm.
and that came, that they actually didn't cover that, but came down to the end there. They were really within that. But then obviously the home field. But then do you say obviously, well, do you think Washington's better or is Oregon? I
Mhm.
mean, there was that head to head in it of itself. But yeah, look, I just think it's USC. Give me USC that many points, them to cover that 15 and a half. And then wrapping up here with my final two best bets. Look, I gotta go. The first game we covered, I think Michigan minus 4.5. I'll take that as one of my best bets. I think Michigan. Look, they're kind of like this villain of the sport right now, and I think they wholeheartedly, you know, certainly it's going to be with Jim Harbaugh at this point
Mhm.
on the field. But I think even if he was out, not there. I mean, I think as a program, talk about talent. I mean, I think they're going to be up for this game and really, I think, make a statement.
Mhm.
Even if it's to, like we said, I could see a very similar Ohio State game script in terms of Penn State, their two matchups against these big dogs of the Big Ten, where they're basically just behind the whole game. At the end there, they get it to 7-6 points, but in that event, Michigan still covers that 4.5. And then let's go back to the Pac-12. I'm going to a team that helped me out last week, a team that we just talked about, that USC just played in Seattle here, in Seattle, Washington, taking on Utah. I like the over 49.5, actually. I think Utah, look, we've previous Ballin, Bryson Daniels. I think there's enough talent for Utah to, and look, we've already seen Washington, their defense, give up points this season. Like you're saying, you don't know what you're really going to get. And look, even if we get a good Washington defense that allows 13 points, I still think we could see a Washington offense with Michael Penix, all those weapons at the helm, put up 38 points, and we're kicking over 50. We're getting, even if it's 37 points, 37-13, that's a 50-point. Cash the over, baby. So those are kind of my three best bets, Con. Where do yours lie?
Yeah. So I wanted to bring something a little different to the table. Neither of us are professional gamblers or anything of the sort.
By no stretch.
Reflected in our records on best bets this year. But I think what we are very good at, and what has been very solid, has been our breakdowns of games and game scripts and how things are going to go like that. But for example, the Ohio State-Michigan State line, just because I'm looking at it, it's 31.5. You don't have to be a fortune teller to say that Ohio State's going to win big, but that's such any number, really. It's so arbitrary. I always say, the teams aren't playing to win by 9.5. They're just playing to win.
Sure.
And now some people are great at breaking that down and finding those winners. I am not, admittedly. So I'm going to go with three best bets, the format we've been doing. If I have another week like the last couple have gone, I'm going to cease doing that and start giving one money line underdog of the week. I feel like that's a better spot where I can pick. I have a better,
where we actually have had some success. To your point,
exactly. That's where we've had the most success, is picking out the spots where, hey, this team's a 7-point dog, but I think they're the better team. They're going to come out and win. And everybody likes a money line pick, right?
Yeah.
Get all that juice. So my one for this week there is Rutgers on the money line. They're only 1.5-point dogs. There's not a ton of juice there, but still, it's a plus sign, not a minus sign. That's always nice.
Sure.
That's also, of course, one of my best bets. It's going to be Rutgers plus 1.5 on the best bets, but my money line dog of the week is going to be Rutgers.
Okay.
I love that pick, by the way. I love it so much it makes me nervous.
Okay. Yeah, but okay, we got you. It's all in one there. You're leading into, if things were to happen this weekend, you're the theme of maybe future picks, but nonetheless a best bet for this week.
I've got Texas Tech plus 4 as
live breakdown.
Yeah, I did that live on air. I saw that line, said it makes so little sense, I just have to take it.
Gotcha. Fair enough.
Which should work out well, because all the things that do make sense to me don't go well.
Yep.
And I've got Arizona over 32.5 on the team total over.
Okay. Going to the well that's already failed you once on this show with the Arizona team total over, when I had them 27.5 and they got 27 right on the dot. But yeah, I like where your head's at with those picks, and we're just at a point where we're trying to reinvent, not reinvent the wheel, but we're trying to just get some good juju going there, some good karma. Try to change things up in the hopes that we get you guys some cash. As always, though, you got to gamble responsibly. Like we're saying, we're not out here betting the house per se. We're just trying to have fun, watching football, betting football, talking football like we do 2 days a week. Con, any closing words here?
Not much. Just to say that I'm Peyton Manning, he's Ryan Leaf, and that's the episode.
At least Eli.